Today on Why This Matters, we are joined by Captain C.S. Randhawa on the very important issue, which is the Air India issue, and overall the issue of the airlines, private airlines majorly. Welcome to you, Mr. Randhawa, on Why This Matters. Randhawa,
Thank
so firstly, I want to ask you after this Phuket Delhi flight of Air India, a lot is being said about the issues of the protocol, the norms in Air India, and how the Air India till now has not learned any lesson from AI 171. What is happening inside Air India?
you. See, Harsha, the problem lies in the regulation. The regulation so suggests that there has been less importance which has been given to drug testing in India. When many countries in the world started the drug testing on aircrew and ATC officers and engineers and flight dispatchers, India started only in 2022. And Gulf, they had started around 2010. They had started the drug testing, or even before, including Australia and many other nations. So we were far behind, and even in the implementation stage, now they have said only 10% of the people to be tested for drugs. Now, that is as per the regulation, which is aligned to FAA and EASA regulations. Whereas many countries in the world, they are doing about 25% of the test of for the random testing. Now, in many countries, they have evolved a procedure of swab testing because which is faster and results are available to you within 10-15 minutes. Unlike the urine test or the hair follicle test, which takes you about 24 to 72 hours. Now, the reason being, now we per se cannot blame Air India. Air India has, in fact, if you see, one thing is very encouraging that though this pilot has been caught after the flight, he has been tested positive on both the accounts, on both the tests, and the airline took initiative. DGC never told them. It took the initiative of doing the test for 5,000 pilots. Now, two more have tested positive in the first test. But only after the second test, the confirmation will be made whether they are positive or negative.
Which will take
Now,
24 to 48 hours, which has already
yeah,
crossed.
yes. But what I'm saying is the airline took that initiative. We must appreciate that. That the airline took the initiative. Other airlines just silent. They're sitting tight. If I can bet if you find 1% of the pilots or 0.5% of the pilots test positive in Air India, Indigo is even a bigger airline.
Hmm.
So now DGC cannot mandate this test and tell the airlines that okay, do 100% test. This is only Air India came forward and they said we'll test the pilots 100%. Now the CR is very clear that you test only randomly 10%,
Correct.
and you are supposed to test not only pilots, the cabin crew and the engineers. So that the DGC has to check whether these 10% of people are being tested. And when you check those 10% people are checked for these drug tests, are the same people being tested over and over again? Or, the people should not repeat in every 10%. Supposing if I am tested today, then I should not be tested if there are 5,000 pilots, so my turn would come after 10 years. You get
Correct.
my point? But it's
Yes.
not that I'm subjected to test every year and the other person has never tested. So there's a lacuna in the system. So for that reason, I have taken up a detailed proposal to change the CR 5F5. And I've suggested the swab testing, which is to be complemented. It will be a hybrid test. And if it is positive, then the person is to be grounded. At least you're sure that in few last few days he's not had any drugs. So it's a positive step that you can avoid a person going on the flight and then subsequently test him for urine and hair follicle test, so that it gives you analysis whether when the person has, because the test cannot tell you when did you have the drug. Now in a hair follicle, even up to 3 months, it will pick up the test.
Mr.
The
Randhawa, do
test
you
will pick
also
up.
feel, Mr. Randhawa, but you also feel that the reason why Air India did this test on 5,000 pilot, because Air India somewhere believes that they are losing trust. After AI 171, earlier passengers had a fear of flying. Now they have a fear of flying in Air India specifically.
It's very unfortunate that there was a technical failure, so the pilot got caught. Supposing there
Hmm.
was no technical failure, he would have gone escort free, no?
Yes.
The problem is not that. The problem is that the pilots should not be undertaking flights if they are not well, or they have taken some medication. Firstly, they're not supposed to do self medication, and they are not supposed to enter the cockpit. The point remains that why did he operate the flight? That is the main issue. So in that, if you see, even in the other airlines, if if the records are checked, and if they are subjected to 100% all the airlines, I don't know how many more cases will come.
But in our country, do you agree that the pilot protocols are very lenient as compared to other countries? You remember, Mr. Randhawa, there was a mail, random mail, which was also sent by one of the very senior pilots to Campbell, which we also flagged on our broadcast, that how there was a mail that they were suggesting that there should be psychological testing for the pilots in Air India, like it happens in Emirates. And how if they are going
Yes.
through depression, if they are not well, there should be proper protocol and some system in line.
Yes. You are right. You're right that most of the airlines around the world, the leading airlines and the other airlines also in Europe and all that, they do a psychometric test.
Hmm.
Okay, now psychometric test is confidential in nature. So it is not even revealed, the test results are not revealed to the individual. Okay, but you come to know about the mental health of the person. But in Indian scenario, I don't know whether they're carrying out the psychometric test. And one thing is that during the initial, when you get your license, uh, and you go for medicals, okay, that is the time you are checked by a psychiatrist, because you do an EEG also, and you're checked that time. Subsequently, there is no procedure to check
Hmm.
until unless you find some abnormality in the pilot. It's reported. Then the company doctor, you're supposed to refer. You are referred to a company doctor, and from there the story starts. But otherwise, you're right that the psychometry test should be made compulsory in all the airlines, and during every medical, when the person goes, the person is subjected to, he goes to the medical specialist, aviation medical specialist, or he will go to an Air Force establishment. And the medical specialist also, when he checks your blood pressure and all that and checks the parameters, he will come to know in case there is something wrong, because there will be some conversation with every doctor,
Hmm.
whether you're eye specialist, whether ENT specialist. These are the specialties, but there is no separate analysis for a psychiatrist to check you in every medical, any part of the world.
So one thing I'm still not able to understand, and I think each and every passenger wants to know the reality as well. There are two theories, Mr. Randhawa, now which are doing rounds in the aviation corridor. What could have gone wrong with Phuket Delhi flight? One, there's hydraulic failures. In 1 minute, 12 errors. There were so many warnings. Other theory is about pilot consuming marijuana. And second, pilot also didn't stop him. The crew was also aware about it, how he was smoking pot inside the cockpit. So what really happened? Was it really the hydraulic failure? Because Airbus clearly stated that the structural maintenance and the structural investigation of this Phuket Delhi flight is needed in this particular case.
You see, Airbus has very clearly said that there was a hydraulic failure, transient.
Hmm.
There was a transient failure. The hydraulic system they recovered within total seconds, 7 seconds from the time the first hydraulic system went. So they have confirmed that. Now they have to corroborate with the DFDR what has happened. But they have come out with a statement that there was a transient failure. I have never heard of triple hydraulic failure on a 320 family aircraft, and
Hmm.
they don't even have a checklist for a triple hydraulic failure. The manufacturer, so they are very concerned that how did it occur. They are still investigating, and we'll come to know what is the analysis after the investigation is over. The second part is that what you rightly said, that the pilot has tested positive.
Hmm.
Now, I have not heard that the pilot has been smoking in the
Cockpit.
marijuana in the cockpit. He was standing behind. For what reasons, I have no idea, because that can be only decoded from the CVR, what was
DFDR.
transpiring between the pilots.
Hmm.
And I have no news that the pilot was smoking in the cockpit. I definitely know that the cabin crew had reported that the previous evening they had gone out for a party in Phuket. So I don't know whether he took it then and whether he took it earlier, because the second confirmatory test was done with a hair follicle, if I'm not wrong. Now,
Yes.
if it is done with hair follicle, then the positiveness, as I told you, that it will remain in the bloodstream for 3 months.
Hmm.
So even if he's had 2 months back, he'll test positive. Hair follicle.
But
That is
the
the
but the but the anecdotes and the tales of the crew members just come out. They were clearly stating that before boarding the flight, just before in Phuket when they partied, and the crew members also partied. They all were together. So if
yeah.
we corroborate whatever the crew have stated, so it means
Yes.
that the marijuana was consumed before he boarded the flight.
You can't see. It's difficult to say before the flight, because, as I said, the problem with the drug testing, it does not tell you whether you just had just now. See, I will tell you the stages. Now, like if I do a swab test, it can tell
Hmm.
me maximum up to 8 to 10 days maximum. Okay. When I get to urine, I can check that person for next 60, 30, 60 days. If I check the hair follicle, it can trace you back up to 90 days. So that is how the protocols for this testing is there. Now, the question arises that how do we move forward? What has happened has
Hmm.
happened. And that will come in the investigations. If he smoked in the aircraft or before the flight, or, that will all come in the investigations, because the first officer also will be investigated. So, and the cabin crew will also be investigated. So that will come through the investigations which the AIB is doing. And what I'm trying to say, there is a need of the hour that now we have, since the aviation is growing multifold, I have written to the DGCA, to the minister and the secretary and the principal secretary, that there is a need to revise the uh, CR and regulations and make stricter protocols and increase the safety. How do you increase the safety? As I told you, when you do a swab test, you will deroster the pilot. The pilot will not operate the flight. And now you'll
Hmm.
do further testing. So this is called a hybrid model, right? So I have given the advantages. Secondly, one thing is very, very, you know, interesting, that the CR does not make any mention that what all the drugs the pilot should not be taking, which has some medicinal effects also, or some derivatives of drugs. So in my letter, I've given that what protocols should be followed. The pilots have to be trained; they have to be recurrent trained. for all the drugs, and they should be briefed that they should not do any self medication, and there should be penalty clauses for having doing the self medication. So you have to put checks and procedures, and we have to go forward now. What has happened? That investigation team will come out. Okay, speculating whether the person has had drugs before the flight, it is the test cannot tell you. Okay, when?
Hmm.
That is the problem. Anywhere, whether I do a test in America or I do in Japan or in Gulf, the test is same because it goes to specialized labs. So, so what I'm saying is that now we have to move forward. How do we move forward? There is a need to revamp the system.
One more thing I wanted to want to understand with you, Mr. Randhawa. We have also accessed a mail which is regarding the MEL in this particular Phuket Delhi aircraft. MEL issue is not a new issue with Air India. We saw the health of the Ahmedabad aircraft, which exploded, and now we are looking at this Phuket Delhi flight, which states that there it was dispatched with the PTU inoperative.
Yes.
So
So you
why
see,
is
if
Air
the
India
ML,
flying its aircraft without proper maintenance, without its
I
proper
will I
check?
will tell you I will tell you the minimum equipment list. Now the minimum equipment list is derived out of the MMEL, which is made by the manufacturer. Now the redundancy factor is taken into account when they make the MMEL, the manufacturer makes. They decide that whether the aircraft is a go situation or no go situation. Okay.
Hmm.
Now, if you say there is one hydraulic failure, it will be no go on pre flight. Okay. But in the air, it happens, there is a checklist. So, similarly, if a PTU, one PTU is under MEL, it allows you to go, that means it is safe to go. The MEL will allow you to take the flight, and the AME will certify and pilot will accept it. So MEL is a known norm in the aviation industry, and it's a go or a no go situation. The MEL will clearly tell you if it is a no go. Then you
Hmm.
can't go. So these, like I'll give you a small example. Like if supposing there is some problem with one particular, the light is not coming on the switch. That doesn't mean the flight will not go. The ML will allow it to go. So I'm giving you one example, right?
Hmm.
So MEL is a norm which is to be applied practically, which the manufacturer has endorsed it.
So, but one thing, it's very difficult for everyone to digest also that so many errors in 1 minute. Hydraulic system fails, there was fire exit warning, engine anti-ice system warning was there. The hydraulics, there was no fuel, no reservoir pressure. There was so many issues. The edge, the air lawns which
Um,
was completely not working. There was warnings in the airlines as well. The control surfacing was a problem. So many issues, so many errors in 1 minute.
you see, they're all interlinked. Some things are interlinked. Like I'll tell you, there is a computer called elevator aileron computer. Now that could have also triggered these three hydraulic failures. Okay. And why these messages come, that is why the Airbus industry is trying to understand. First, the low pressure comes, and the reservoir warning light has come. Okay,
Hmm.
so both warnings have come, in fact. Now, you lose the autopilot when three or so that will also happen. Now, why did the exit lights come on, the doors, front and rear, on the right side? Then why did the anti-ice one engine come on? So those are questions to be answered, which they will come out in the investigation. Because
But
you
one
and me, no one is having the privy to all the documents, and also the devices like the
but
DFTR and
uh,
CTR.
but in a nutshell, Mr. Randhawa, There's a message also which I continuously get from most of the passengers when when they're traveling from Air India. There is a fear of flying, and Air India has not learned from any of its mistakes in the past. The issues with Air India pertains to remain as it is, whether it be maintenance, checks, errors, fault, and people largely compare it with other airline. They compare it with Indigo. They say that there's other airline which is majorly flying in so many sectors in repeatedly, in each and every sector, multiple airlines are flying, but the higher is the frequency of Air India airplanes whose errors are coming out and it's
You
been not
see,
looked into.
See, last year I had brought up this point that Air India had more than 350 findings, which are far in
Hmm.
excess from industry standards from DGCA. So they have a lot of maintenance issues. Now, the problem with the maintenance issues has been, I have flagged that last year also, that there has been a problem that Air India, what they had done, that when all these airlines merged into each other, what they did, they previously to that they had formed AIESL, which is a separate holding company. All the senior
Correct.
engineers from Air India had moved on to AIESL. Right now, they last year they changed the these maintenance protocols. They were not being done by the AIESL, and they had tied up with some other agency.
Because of the
So
privatization issue also, AIESL employees are also
yeah, yeah.
continuously protesting.
But the point is, they were all senior engineers there, and they are
Hmm.
all ex Air India. So that was, I feel, that was a blunder. They should have continued with them, and with the result, the new recruits which they had taken, they were from non-type-rated aircraft earlier. They have to do the type rating when they after they join. So someone may have been 737 qualified, someone may have been Falcon qualified. So they took such people from all over, and because availability of the people who are type rated would be very less, even in engineers. So that was an issue, and of course, uh, with privatization, they did not have any problem with the number of spares, but it was alarming that the number of MELs they were carrying on the aircraft, they were within go situation, but they were quite high.
So I think we all need to wait for the final report of the AIB, which will give us more light on exactly what happened inside and in the Phuket Delhi flight, and exactly now when Air India will learn the lesson or not.
They will, I think, the, now there is going to be change in management, Chandrasekhar is on his way out, and so is Campbell will go by this month end, and new incumbent will come, and even Chandrasekhar is going, he's resigned. So that may be a positive step, and of course, with the new management coming, they would look at more seriously and take up the issues like the Air India 171 crash. That itself is a very serious thing, and we have been even fighting that in the Supreme Court
Supreme Court.
for a judicial probe. And
So you so
there
you
also,
so you agree Mr. Randhawa, that the present management was also the major reason why these all issues were continuously recurring
maybe,
in the
maybe,
inside Air India.
maybe that is why Mr. Noel Tata has given it a thought, because Mr. Ratan Tata was not well before he expired. For quite some time, he was out of action. So Mr. Chandrasekhar, he was trying to control the airline, and I heard from a lot of people that it was running like an IT company, more not more like an airline, and there was less interference by Singapore Airlines, right?
Hmm.
And that Singapore Airlines has now learned, because if you see the losses have gone to 55,000 crores in 4 years. And when it was under the government, I think the airline was running better, because over a couple of 3 decades or 4 decades, they compiled a loss of 60,000 crores. But it was never a situation like this. So it gives indication that there has been a mess up at the higher management level. Now, an HR person, he must have, the boss of HR should be from an airline background. He's been bought from
Hmm.
some Tata Steel or somewhere. What does he know
Correct.
about aviation? So I'm just giving you an example. And similarly, that is what they did. When they did the merger, they let all the legacy, that means the old people, go out, resign, go, right? And you had all these young jokers coming and taking over without much of experience. See, any airline which has done a merger, you take the in the West, America is the biggest example. You do
Hmm.
hand holding. You have to have people who are senior and who are young, and you handhold them, bring them up to that level. And now what you want to make changes, you make the changes in the airline after a couple of years. So there's been a
Correct.
total mess up. That's why I'm blaming Mr. Chandrasekhar also.
Thank you so much, Mr. Randhawa, for joining us. It was
Yeah.
indeed, a good light on the issue of Phuket Delhi, which many have been questioning that when the report finally will be out.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.